thank you all for coming. We appreciate it. We've got a lot of good, neat content to talk about, especially when it comes to Microsoft Copilot and security, as well as Microsoft Teams and how the two interface together. And this is kind of, I want to say almost a repeat, but not really. A repeat, but with a lot of enhanced material in this session over what we did last year. And that's because last year, Copilot was just this word. There wasn't really much out there yet. But so much has happened over the past year since we last put this on, and we went through how do you enhance Microsoft Teams and security, and until now, to this point. So we're going to eliminate a lot of Copilot and security in this one here, in this session. So thank you again for coming. We'll go through quick introductions for Scott and I. We'll give some thanks to our sponsors, of course. Like we heard this morning, without them, we wouldn't be here. Amazing. Love coming back. And then we'll get into our stories and demos and go from there and answer any questions that might come up at the end. We should have enough time at the end to go through that. So introductions. I'll go first. I'll hand it over to Scott. Kevin Martins, been with Microsoft for about 12 plus years or so. I lead a team of partner technical architects. Why partner? Because that's how Microsoft scales, is through partners, right? So we work with a lot of the distribution partners out there, the PAX8s, the TD SYNNEX, the A&Ms, the CDWs, the IBMs, the Dells. We work with so many partners to make sure that they're enabled to get out there and sell Microsoft products and to make sure they know all of the latest things like Microsoft Copilot for security, right? 3 kids, they keep me busy, very busy. I've got a passion for collaboration and cybersecurity, which is why I love talking about both topics all the time. And what do I do with that in all my spare time that I never have? I also teach classes with the University of Maryland in their cybersecurity department. I love doing that. Trust me, it's not for the pay. It's a way to give back, and I have a good time doing that. So Scott, I'll hand it over to you.
Great. So I'm Scott. I'm a former roadie turned propeller head. I worked with all the big rock and roll bands. You've seen videos that I've done. You've seen TV shows I've done. You've seen movies I've done. You have seen concerts that I have worked. Okay? I have 7 patents and 3 provisional patents. None of them are related to computers at all. But if you've ever been to concerts and you've seen the moving lights around, that's all me. Okay? I was on the first 7 patents of all that. I'm a former high school teacher. So in between being a roadie, I taught school for 4 years, 5 years, something like this. So, I have the policy that if you've got a question, there's no stupid questions. If you have a question, it's because you want to learn something from me, which is really cool. I've been at CDW for 3.5 years. It's my dream job, okay? Oddly enough, and I saw Craig here, he's like, what, it's your dream job? I interviewed with CDW 7 different times. And for some reason or another, it wasn't right on their side or it wasn't right on my side, but I've been here with CDW and they're absolutely great. I like teaching people new things. I like watching when light bulbs go on, okay? That is the coolest thing for me, okay? Sometimes we talk about real in-depth things, and then once somebody finally gets it, the light bulb comes on and it's like, wow. And that's just really cool to me. I've been married for 33 years. I've got 2 boys that are great. One's 29, one's 22. Levi and Christian are their names. Big shout out to Levi and Christian for when they watch us on YouTube. They will be watching. I've known Kevin for 17 years. We've literally been through the trenches together. Our history goes back to when we were at Hewlett-Packard and when we were managing Exchange servers for 160, 180,000 seats, something like that. I'm from Estes Park, Colorado, a little mountain town up in the mountains. And that's it for me. We want to take a time to thank Landis and Momentum, Audio Codes, Poly, and all the other sponsors here as well, because without them, this wouldn't be possible here. I also want to take some time to shout out Josh and Jonathan and Adam and Pat and all of the other volunteers that are here. Without their vision, this also wouldn't be possible. A year or so ago, Kevin and I, we decided that we wanted to present here. We wanted to do something about Teams, but not necessarily related to SBCs and calling and all this kind of stuff. I don't know SBCs, okay? Everybody around me here, all the CDW folks, Scott will teach you SBCs, and I'm like, no. I've got enough to deal with figuring out security and all of the other bits and pieces that I do, okay? So Kevin and I, we decided, let's do something about security. And so we came to the sponsors here, and we said, we want to do a security workshop, a team security workshop. And they're like, okay. One that had never been done before. It's now the third most watched CommsVNext video of all time out on YouTube, okay? Thank you. So without further ado, let's go ahead and we'll start talking about Copilot security. We're going to start talking about a little things that we call scary numbers, okay? Do you guys want to hear about some scary numbers? You can do this louder than that. Come on, everybody. Yeah! Come on. Yeah! Yeah, there we go. All right, Kevin, take it away.
Way to open it up. There you go. So Microsoft Copilot for Security and Microsoft Teams. Obviously, this is a Teams conference, so we want to stick with that. But before we get into more Copilot for Security and we start taking you through some demos, we've got to set the stage. So I'm going to ask you a question. Who here thinks that Microsoft is a security company? I have 4 hands. 4.5? Almost.
3 more than last year.
3.5 more than last year.
Yep.
Yes. Yes. Last year we had 1. 1 hand went up. So bear with me. I'm not nuts. I'm not crazy. I'm going to go through some of these numbers, the scary numbers that Scott tells you about. Microsoft is one of the largest security companies on the planet. Just many people don't think of us like that. Okay? So when you think about Microsoft and you think about the number of devices and subscribers that Microsoft has out there, Windows 10, Windows 11 combined, there's almost 1.5 billion installations of those. On each one of those, Windows 10 and Windows 11, what's on by default? Well, we've got automatic updates. We also have this thing, Windows Defender. We're monitoring for viruses and malware and things like that. Well, we receive signals on that, a lot of signals. Okay, so keep that number in mind, almost 1.5 billion of those. When you think about Xbox Live subscribers, what was it, 120 million monthly active users on Xbox Live? Then you think about Hotmail and Outlook.com and all of those different accounts that are out there that are for free, right? That we all use. Hopefully you do. I do. Anyway, all of those are signals that we get in each and every day. To the tune, look at this number up here, 78T. T as in trillion. 78 trillion signals every single day Microsoft receives. So when I think about that number, and I read, because again, I love the collaboration in cybersecurity space, I read a lot of the cybersecurity reports that people like Microsoft have out. Verizon has a great one. SonicWall, WatchGuard, Cisco, we all make them, right? And we talk about the signals that we receive. A lot of the signals that are out there that other companies talk about is into the millions, sometimes billions. Again, we operate in the trillions. That 78 trillion, by the way, is an increase of 13 trillion. Last year, when I brought these numbers up, that was 65 trillion. So we're receiving more and more intel every single year. Well, what do we do with that, right? Well, that's where it gets interesting. We analyze all that information. So an attack on Xbox Live, if you're a subscriber on there, is also considered to be an attack on an Outlook.com public account or a Microsoft 365 paid subscription, right? So we look at the attack, we look at the vector, we take a hash of the virus that might have been thrown at somebody, and we look at that, we analyze it, we put a mitigation in place, and it protects all of our services out there, right, for hundreds of millions of accounts, if not more. We also receive attacks, password attacks. Every single second, there's something like 550 million Azure Active Directory accounts. 4,000 password attacks every single second. That's an increase. There was something like 900 that we had up there last year. Huge increase in threats and cyber attacks out there. We have 8,500 dedicated security defenders across the company, across the planet. That's a huge number of people. When you look at some of the other security companies that are out there that only specialize in security, that's more than they have combined. Right? There's a lot of things that happen at Microsoft, all about cybersecurity. We are a very large network, a lot of people, a lot of data, and these cyber attackers would like nothing more than to get at that data. So it's up to us to help defend that. Okay. But relating back to Microsoft Teams, here's a couple of interesting numbers. 400 million paid Office 365 seats. That's a last report, January 2024. 320 million monthly active Microsoft Teams users. That's our last reported public numbers. Look at our earnings. That's where we usually report those numbers. Our next earnings come out on Thursday of this week. You might see that number increase, right? That is a huge attack vector. You know, it's kind of like a cyber attacker going after a bank. Do they ever look at the front door? No, because it's too heavily fortified. They're going after each one of us. Do we have MFA enabled on our accounts? Most of us don't, right? It's changing. Things are changing. So what do the attackers do? Well, there's malware generation. Why would I pay a whole team of people if I'm a cyber attacker from a nation state? Why would I pay a whole team of people, coders, very expensive, lots of talent, why would I pay them to generate malware anymore? AI is out there. Why not get AI to do it for you and go at the speed of light, right? Password cracking. Why would I pay someone to sit there and try to crack your password? You're in the front row, so I'm going to call on you quite a bit. Why would I do that, right, when AI is out there? Well, the algorithms are now written. They know that, hey, when you're asked to change your password, what are you going to do? You're going to increment it by one number. We all do it. We've all done it for years. That's why Microsoft years ago came out with a study that simply said changing passwords is ineffective anymore because the algorithms are that good. They can guess what your next password is or come pretty close to it, and eventually it's not if, it's a when. They guess that, and now they're into your system. You've got to start moving at the speed of light. You've got to start moving and playing the game like they play it. So it's a cat and mouse game, right? I just pulled a couple of different article headlines, just did this last week, just went to Copilot and actually asked it, hey, give me a couple articles on this topic. China is suspected of using AI on social media to sway US voters. Hey, we have an election coming up in the US, right? Microsoft says it caught hackers from China, Russia, and Iran using our own AI tools, right? All of this is happening every single day. Again, a cat and a mouse game. Now we think of us as the cat. If they're the mice, we're the cat. How are we trying to stop each other? Well, it's not just Microsoft. I put a couple of Gmail and Google headlines up here as well. Google, using AI, is blocking 100 million extra spam messages every single day. That's huge. But when you operate at that scale, is it really that big? Maybe it's a fraction of 1% of what they have, right? But it's still something, right? So one other one I'll highlight here at the bottom. So we're talking about spam messages and trying to get into accounts and so forth. But what about all the telemarketing calls that we all get, right? On our cell phones, if you still have a home phone, whatever it may be. I remember years ago when my grandmother was alive. She passed away when she was 98 years old, and she was probably 96 when she called me. She had a call to her landline. It was someone claiming they were from Microsoft. She's got a virus on her machine, and they're there to fix it for her. How nice of them to call her and be proactive about it, right? Well, of course, it wasn't them. She called me up on her cell. Kevin, I got someone from Microsoft on the other line. You know, what should I do? I don't know if it's true or not. Granny, it's not true. Just hang up the phone, right? Well, now, in February, we're working with telcos, and we actually have a service out there that you can subscribe to with some of the telcos that will listen in on calls. It's AI. It's not a real person listening in. It's AI, and it's listening for signals like my grandmother's telephone call. And it's, are you being asked to give up your credit card number, your bank account information? Where's the call coming from? What time of day is the call coming from? All of that information comes in as part of that algorithm, and it's stopping calls like that from happening. So in my grandmother's case, an automated voicemail or a prompt would have come in over that phone call, so only she could hear it and say, hey, we think that this is a scam, or something to that effect. pretty powerful stuff. Again, you have to subscribe to a service like that, but I'm talking about my granny at this point during this story. How many millions of other people out there are taking advantage of? That service, it's just another evolution of what AI can do for us now. So enter Microsoft Copilot for Security, one of the first AI services that's bringing all of these different Microsoft services together, of which there's over 100 of them now. Are all of them part of Copilot for Security? Not yet, right? But all of them are now coming together, so you can much more easily and faster at the speed of light, at the malicious attacker's speed, you could start to put everything together, right? Understand the story, and that's part of our demos that we'll get into in just a moment here. You could start to put those things together very quickly using the intelligence that's coming in from not just our network and our knowledge at Microsoft, but also your own tenant environment and perhaps your own services that you may already have in your environment. So Microsoft Copilot for Security, there's two ways to use it. There's the standalone version on the left-hand side, and then there's also the embedded version. Standalone version that brings all of these services together, right? In one prompt area, you can ask it questions in natural language format, and it'll go out and query all these different services that it connects to and answer you back in natural language. We'll show you that in just a moment. The embedded version, this is based on feedback that we had out there with beta users. So the standalone version was the first version to be released, right? The first interface, rather, to be released in beta format. But then we got, through the feedback, we developed this thing called embedded version. So over here, this could be Microsoft Purview, it could be Microsoft Intune. There's a number of different services that we have the embedded version now part of. Over here on the right-hand side, you've got Copilot built in. But Copilot here is only pulling out information out of this particular service. So over here on the left, you've got all the services being wrapped into one in one session. Over here on the right, you're just focusing on that service. But the advantage here is that you probably have already used, if you're a cybersecurity architect, you probably have already used this service here. You're probably already familiar with that interface. So why not continue to use it and just click on the button that says Summarize or Copilot. So you can access both of them, again, across Microsoft Defender XDR, Sentinel, Intune, Entra, Purview, many more coming. Something I want to point out here, though, is that I always take a pause when we talk about Copilot and AI. Your data is your data. Microsoft's not looking at your data. We're not training our algorithms or anything like that off your data. Your data is yours. Keep that in mind. Not all services are like that. So here, let's talk about how it all works, right? So I'm going to build out this crazy-looking diagram, but bear with me for a moment. It's great. It's important that you understand about how this works. Prompting in Microsoft Security Solutions up in the upper left. You can be coming in from the standalone version or the embedded version, asking questions in your natural language. User prompt goes into the orchestrator, Microsoft Security Copilot. From there, Microsoft Security Copilot goes out to the different services that you're connected to, and it grounds that question. It tries to understand your question and then understand what services are out there, and then it'll change your prompt a bit, okay? But what's important before I go into the next step to understand is that here you've got the Microsoft services, Microsoft Defender XDR, Intune, Sentinel, and a variety of other ones out there. But down at the bottom, you've got third parties. You've got Splunk, you've got ServiceNow. Maybe you've got something else out there that you want to make a connector to, right? To pull that data out to include in your data set for Microsoft Security Copilot. So it takes all the services that you have access to, that's important as well. You as the user, right? It's only pulling data. If I issue that command, that user prompt, the only information and data I'm going to get back is what my user account has access to, not what Scott has access to. He might have, used to call him godlike privileges, not what he's got. It's only what I have at the moment. So anyway, it takes that data and it throws it over to a large language model, an LLM, where it's here that your query and the available services are put together in a set of instructions. how is it going to execute on that command, right? So then from there, the LLM response comes back, goes back to the orchestrator, which sends it down, and it executes on these services. Now it's pulling the data that you need, okay? Goes back up to you, back in a natural language format. Now you can read the response. Is it code? Is it something you might get right out of Sentinel? No, it's not. It's a natural language, something we can understand. You've got paragraphs, you've got bullet points, you've got a whole story there of what happened. Defender for XDR, Microsoft Sentinel. I don't know Sentinel playbooks. I'm a cybersecurity architect. I need to know what's going on in my environment. There's a user that's locked out by some type of an automated means. Why? Why is that happening? Right? That's what I need to know, and I need to know it very, very quickly. I don't have time to go through all these different portals and try to piece together all the stories. That's what Copilot can do for you. So with that, let's look at a few demos.
Great.
Scott's got that laid up.
So we've got to lay the groundwork here for these demos so everybody gets it, okay? So we're going to be basing our demos off of a couple of 3 different technologies here. The first one is communication compliance. How many people have seen communication compliance? Okay, great. Basically, it's a set of triggers that you can set, and when somebody does something wrong, you can send an alert on it, okay? Pretty straightforward. Insider risk management. Anybody done anything with insider risk management? Great. So that's another thing that will accept external triggers. In this case, our external trigger is from communication compliance. But we could also interface into HR systems or something like this. So if somebody says, okay, I'm resigning in 2 weeks, now that's the trigger, and we're going to go and monitor things with insider risk management on them, okay? And then adaptive protection. Adaptive protection takes actions on insider risk management and does things like lock you out, okay, via conditional access policies and stuff like this. So communication compliance and insider risk management, they both work separately. They can generate separate alerts, okay? They can be combined because insider risk management can accept a trigger from communication compliance. Insider risk management alone can trigger adaptive protection, okay? And in this scenario, we're showing you all of them together, okay? So here's the situation. Alex sends a Teams message to Adele, and this one says, I'm retiring early. Did you see CDW's current stock price? No more weak stock, CDW to the moon. That triggered a stock insider trading alert in communication compliance. Now, we did insider risk management. Insider risk management got triggered, and it says, what else has Alex done? Has he downloaded a bunch of files from OneDrive or SharePoint? And in this case, he downloaded a bunch of files from OneDrive and SharePoint, and he exfiltrated these files, okay? Adaptive protection kicked in and locks him out. In this case, it locks him out of Teams, and Teams only, but I can lock him out of every cloud application, okay? The end result, Alex is locked out, okay? So let's go take a look at things in depth and how we had to set all this stuff up, okay, and how we had to know the inside of how all of this works, okay? And then you'll see how Copilot summarizes everything, because right now, without Copilot, you would have to know all the ins and outs of how everything works, okay? So let's go take a look here. Here's the communication compliance policy right here. Oh, did you notice that I went over to alerts real quick? There are no alerts there, by the way. Does anybody know why? Microsoft's working on it. you have to have 3 communication compliance policy violations in order to generate 1 alert, okay? Let's go take a look at things more in depth. Okay, great. So this is the actual trigger here. Again, what Alex sent, who he sent it to, when he sent it. Okay? Pretty straightforward. But without Copilot, you've got to be able to decipher all this stuff. Okay? Let's go a little bit further here. We'll wait for this movie to finish out, and we'll go to the next one. This is the insider risk management policy here. Now let's go take a look here. We'll show all the policy indicators here. These are all the things that we decided that we're going to audit, okay? Deleting mass amounts of files, downloading files from SharePoint, stuff like this, okay? When it's also combined with doing things like exfiltrating the data, okay? That's the key. Downloading the files, I don't really care, okay? You can download all the files you want, but when you exfiltrate that data, if you're leaving the company, how many of us have left the company and we're taking all of our PowerShell scripts with us, right? That kind of data exfiltration can now be found, okay? Bottom line.
So, Scott,
yeah,
you've been in the industry for 25 plus years. I'm not going to date you, but that's an awful lot of policies up there that you know that portal well. You set up the policy as part of this demo.
yes.
Right? You're very experienced with this. It would still take you a long time to parse through 20 plus policies that are there. I'm thinking about, what if it's a new cybersecurity analyst? What if you're a big enterprise with 50,000 people and you got a team of 5 people, that operate in cybersecurity?
Yep.
How's someone new that's green, that's maybe right out of college, right out of trade school, whatever it may be, going to be able to do that?
They're not going to be able to decipher it easily. Bottom line. I can't make it any more simpler than that. It can't be easily deciphered. You have to know the environment like the back of your hand in order to be able to detect this kind of stuff. You have to know how it's set up. And that's where Copilot for Security comes in, because I can now query this, and in common language, I can get a response. And we'll get to those responses here in a minute. Let's continue on. As we wait for the video to finish playing here. Okay, so now here's the conditional access policy, okay? We'll take a look at the conditional access policy that Insider Risk Management triggered here. And in this particular case, I wanted to trigger it, so I said high, medium, and low security problems. We're going to block it all, okay? So we're going to block access right here. And now Alex can't get access to the team's environment. Now we'll go take a look at the particular alerts that are generated here. We'll go out and we'll take a look at Alex to find out why Alex cannot log in. There's the failed logon attempt right there, okay? We'll be able to pull out some more information here, such as his IP addresses and stuff like this, but we can verify that Alex cannot log in anymore, okay? We have to know all that kind of stuff before Security Copilot. Copilot for Security, my bad. So we'll go continue on, and we'll go take a look at, see what Copilot for Security will tell us here.
Scott, you also have to know every one of these interfaces too. You're on to your 3rd one, right?
Yes. So now we're going to go take a look at the alerts in a little bit more in depth, okay? And we can find out exactly what's going on. We're going to view the exfiltration activity here. Now take a look here. Here's the sequence. Alex downloaded files, and he sent them out. Okay? We got to know all this stuff right now. Continue on. Now we can pull up more in-depth information here, and we can see who Alex sent the information to. And in this particular case, Alex is not a friend of mine, but he sent it to my private email. Oops. I hope Contoso doesn't come after me. We'll continue on. There we go. Now, notice the Summarize tab there? There's Copilot for Security right there. This is running real time, so you can see how fast Copilot will now summarize everything that we've talked about in the last 15 minutes or so, okay? So this is running real time. It'll take about 45 seconds for it to come up with an answer for us with what's going on. And this is the embedded Copilot. Okay, we'll go take a look at standalone Copilot here in a second. Okay, so there we go. The summary. Alex got triggered by sending the Teams message that he sent. He downloaded files. He sent them to me. Okay? Really straightforward and really summarized it in what, about 45 seconds or so? It's a lot easier than having to know those 5 or 6 different interfaces that we had to look at, just to show you how this was all set up. Let's go over to the standalone Copilot. So here we are in standalone Copilot. There's the issue right there. We'll pull it up. If we take a look, there's the same summary right here. Now we can ask more information about what was going on, okay? So down here, you'll see me type very slowly. I'm not a fast typer. But I'll say, I'll basically ask, what's Alex's risk level? And it'll go back and it'll query Entra, it'll query Intune, and come back with exactly what happened and what his risk level was.
Scott, how did you get to this portal?
securitycopilot.microsoft.com. I had to think about it for a minute.
So this again, question. It wasn't a trick question, I swear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this again is running real time. You know, perhaps this is a help desk agent at this point, wanting to get more information. You wouldn't expect a help desk agent to know all of the security stuff that happened in the background on the other slide. You wouldn't expect them to know that. They just want to get some rough information, and that's what this is doing. Oops. Oh, it responded back, but you get the idea, okay? Let's see if we can go back. No, we can't go back. Okay, so you get the idea, okay? It basically said Alex was locked out because of this conditional access policy. He said these other conditional access policies did not apply to him. Because in my tenant, I've probably got 20 conditional access policies there. They did not apply to him. Only this one particular one did, and he was locked out because he did this. It put it in real common words for everybody, okay? So here is Alex now at this point, and he calls the help desk saying, I can't log into Teams. What's going on? Okay? The help desk agent basically says, on this particular day, Alex was locked out. Why? And it says, oh, because the sign attempt was blocked due to conditional access policies. These other conditional access policies also did not apply to him, but he is now locked out because of this. Okay? You don't have to go digging through logs anymore. You can just simply type a question. It's that simple. Okay? Kevin will hand it over to you, and you can do yours.
Thanks. What I think is really cool about that last slide, though, the summary of what happened, why was Alex locked out? Obviously, this is a help desk agent, right? They received a help desk ticket. They got the call that came in. They've got to log it. Well, they also have to log closeout notes as well. That looks like a copy and paste exercise to me, which would otherwise take, what, another 20 minutes to write up for an experienced agent that might be answering that help desk call? Pretty amazing. So let's stay for a moment in the standalone version of Security Copilot. Copilot for Security, excuse me. We like to rename things. So in here, where do you start? Like Scott, when he went in, he just went right to the prompt, right? Okay, he knew what questions to ask because he's obviously experienced with this. What about you, for the first time going into this? You go in here, here's your bar down here. You can type in a /, right? Get a whole bunch of command prompts that come up for what prompt do you want? Start playing with it, right? But what if you need some more ideas? Hey, tell me about Defender Incident 20259. Well, there's your summary. Updated less than a minute ago. Maybe that happened in your environment, and maybe it's trying to forecast what you came to the prompt for, what you're trying to figure out, and they put it up there for you. So you didn't have to do anything more, right? Maybe you click in there and get some more information. Maybe you were on your way into work, driving on your way in, and you were listening to CyberWire Daily. It's one of my favorite cybersecurity podcasts, right? But you were listening to that, and they talked about Cobalt Strike, brand new attack launched against whatever company that might be out there. You want to find out more information. Remember, Microsoft is a security company, one of the largest on the planet, receiving a lot of intelligence. We have a big intelligence database with a lot of information that's documented about all the attacks that we see out there. Tell me more about Cobalt Strike, and you'll get a nice dissertation all about that particular attack, that attack vector, whatever it may be. Here, tell me more about my latest incidents. Scott was just talking about Alex. In an enterprise of 50,000 people, I'm making this up, right? Certainly, he's not the only one that was locked out due to some type of policy or number of policies out there. I want to know about 10 other people that might have been locked out for the same policy. Am I under attack? If I'm looking at one user, that looks just like one user. If it's 10 users, all within 10 minutes, sounds to me like someone's attacking me. Is it all coming from the same IP address, the same region of the world, same range of IP addresses? Maybe it's another signal to help you dissect and start to understand the cyber attack that your environment is under, right? A lot is in here. Let's keep going. What about other prompts that you can ask for? I love this one up top. How can I improve my security posture over my entire Microsoft tenant? Wouldn't that be cool to see the results of that one, right? If it produces 20 results, even if you start off and implement 2 of them, MFA being number 1, if you don't already have it, even if you only do 2 of them to start with, it's still 2 more that you've done, 2 more different policies that you've set up, right, to help protect your entire environment. Maybe you've been the victim of a ransomware attack, and Microsoft Defender has picked it up. How many of my machines have been affected by this attack that's going on? How many, and where are they, right? A lot of great information here. And the coolest thing about this, which I still can't get over about Copilot, it's all natural language. And in response, you get natural language responses, right? Anyone can understand this at this portal. I love it. So let's go back to the embedded experience for a moment. Let's look at this. This is a couple of screenshots here of what an e-discovery case may look like. Maybe I'm part of a legal team that wants to go in and forget about Copilot and security right now. I'm part of a legal team that's going into a company because we are investigating some stock manipulation that we think might have happened. Well, if I'm part of that team, chances are I'm billing out at $400 an hour. That adds up pretty quickly for an enterprise of 50,000 people. Right? Let's walk through this. Okay? So I've got a I've got a set up here. I'm going to review it. I'm going to go into it. Again, stock manipulation, Teams conversations, and cloud attachments. You can see here my size. Maybe you can't, but I'll read it for you. It's pretty big. It's 108 megs. That's a lot of Teams conversations this thing has discovered here. Let's keep walking through it. Right? These are just click, click, click. I want to select a filter because I want to see, of all the conversations, where have things been mentioned that have anything to do with stock manipulation. Well, here I've selected, here's all my results. I selected one here. You can see the Teams icon on the left. Well, here's the conversation. There's a lot of data in there. That's one conversation. $400 an hour times 50,000 users in an enterprise. That's a very expensive investigation going on. But with Security Copilot, I hit the button, and here's my summary of what happened in that conversation. Pretty wild, pretty amazing technology behind this, right? And then I can go in deeper, and it's prompt. Here's a couple of prompts. Please identify the key participants in this conversation. Type that in. Get your key participants. What about, I'm a global organization, 50,000 person enterprise, across the world, many different languages. I assume that's Chinese, I'm not sure. I'm not an expert in different languages. But how am I supposed to read that if I am and part of that legal team? Do I have to hire translators now? No. Hey, Copilot, give me a summary of what was said in that conversation. And up it comes in English, so I can read it. Translates it for you. Right? Again, same prompt suggestions to dive a little bit deeper into the data set here. But that's not all. What else do you do in conversations? Well, we send attachments, we send links, we send Word documents, Excel files, PowerPoints. We send it all through Teams conversations. Well, here's just one attachment. Again, a big legal investigation going on about stock manipulation. Am I going to read all those attachments? Maybe each one is 10, 20, 30 pages. That's a lot of reading. Again, I have to do Copilot. Go ahead and summarize that attachment for me, please. And then dive a little bit deeper. Who wrote that? Maybe who read it? What are the key topics? Identify action items from it. Tell me more about it so I don't have to read the 10 or 20 pages that are in here, times however many documents have been found as part of my e-discovery set here. So that's pretty cool. There's a lot of neat stuff in here. We love showing it off. We had a great time coming up with the demos and different scenarios here for this for the presentation here today. But with that, where can you go to learn more? We put up a bunch of different resources out there. We had a great time with Copilot creating all these different cat and mice images and all for us, by the way. It's all generated. All these images here were generated by Copilot. But Copilot for Security, Microsoft Learning, a lot of great information out there. Microsoft Mechanics, who's a fan? I love Microsoft Mechanics. Great videos out there. You can learn anything about anything within 15 minutes, right? And a lot of the times, it's the product owners that are helping to present on these Microsoft Mechanics videos. Here's a couple of links for you to go right out to Copilot for Security topics to learn more. So with that, I don't know what time we've got there.
We're at 45 minutes.
Oh, there we go, just as we planned. Perfect.
Yep.
With that, any questions from anyone? Before I ask that, let me ask you a question. How many people here now think that Microsoft's a security company? All right, there we go. Big increase, probably a tenfold increase from what we had before.
Yeah.
I love it, love it. But any questions? I think I saw a hand go up. Yes.
You showed all these prompts gathering information out of Copilot. What about implementation? Does it have the capabilities to say, I want a new conditional access policy to maybe create any of those severity levels and things that you showed?
Yeah, when it comes to like Sentinel, it'll come back with code and suggestions and so forth, just like you can ask it, hey, create a PowerShell script that does this, right? You can do things like that. How advanced it is, I'm not sure because I haven't played with it to that far.
When I set up the scenario that we went through, none of that was set up in Copilot. All of that was set up through Insider Risk Management. Every bit of it was. Okay, and it was all automated prompts, and it was really pretty easy to set up once I got the hang of it. But it wasn't set up via Copilot at all.
Did you have a question? No? Okay, you must have been taking a picture or stretching. All right. Any other questions?
Well, my question's around cost, because we desperately want to implement this, suggest that other customers implement this, and be advocates and propagate, this message across the ecosphere. What's the cost? And I've reviewed that question over and over and over again, still don't quite have an understanding of what it really costs.
Back
That
one
actually
slide.
setting it up in our environment and then reviewing our bill at the end of the month.
So costs we thought would come up. I try to stay away from that question because I'm not an expert in that, as well as any Microsoft licensing, by the way. I like to show it off. Whoops, let me go back one more. Sorry. There's a resources slide in there that I just showed. I think there was a 15-minute YouTube video that talks all about the costs that are out there in there. Anything else? Yes.
What about those companies that are very security conscious, right? So if we showed this to some of the companies that I work with, they would just freak out, right? They've asked for control policies, restrictions, no information and data like chats, right? So we've actually got policies that remove all chat history.
Interesting. So it respects all the policies, just like it respects my user ID when I first started talking about this. I don't have access to what my user account has access to, right? If you're not saving any chat history, that's not going to pick it up. The other thing, too, is that let's say you do save chat history, right, for 30 days or infinite number of days, whatever it is. You can tell it, hey, it's like a toggle switch. Nope, you don't get to use that, right? Just turn it off. It won't access Microsoft Teams information.
What about policies that use 24-hour restriction? Does it still send out notification alerts within that 24-hour policy? So if they chat that they're having a, insider trading event within that 24-hour period because we have that 24-hour restriction period, that still send off the alert within that period. Just would that data be gone after that 24-hour alert, or would it be retained? That's the question.
From your prompt in Copilot? That, I think, is real time. I don't think that's saved, that information. I don't know, you were in there with
Yeah.
the demos. Did you see anything on that?
So if something got triggered and you deleted whatever the conversation was that triggered it, the alert would still be there, but the conversation that triggered it would not be. Okay?
I thought you meant the prompt itself.
If it was part of that alert, yes. Okay, because Security Copilot is just the Copilot for Security, sorry. That's just the interpretation, shall we say, of all of the other bits and pieces that have happened. Okay, so if the wording for that particular security event was still in an alert, like it was in my demonstration here, then yes, that would still be part of that.
Yeah, I think the question is going to come up whether it's a security hold situation, right? That's going to be the ask,
Right.
and that needs to be validated. So I just thought maybe you guys knew the answer, but we'll have to go back and check.
A lot of this, when it comes to very specific questions like that, just set it up in a demo environment. Yes, sir.
Talk a little bit more about when you might use standalone versus one of the copilots in like Purview or something like that.
Yeah, so it's the standalone. The question was, can we talk a little bit more about when you would use the standalone version of Security Copilot or the embedded version? In one of the first couple slides, there were a couple notes in there that we talked about. The standalone version brings all the different services together, right? The embedded version just focuses on, if you're in the Purview panel, for example, you're getting information out of Purview from the embedded version there. If you're in Intune, you're just getting in Intune, and then the embedded Copilot that's there, you're just getting Intune information from there. That's the difference.
Okay, so like one of the things I saw was like, what's the risk status, right? And when I think of risk status, I think of Entra. So like if I'm in Purview and I ask what's the risk status, it's able to
I would go into Entra and issue that command. That, or go into standalone version so you know it's looking at all the different Copilot-enabled features and services. And the advantage there in standalone as well is that, remember the ServiceNow and the Splunk, you can enable those as well and pull data out of those. So you're getting it from your entire environment.
Yes, so when I showed that particular alert, I said summarize, okay? I couldn't interact with that alert at all, okay? It was a summary of that alert. So I wanted to know more information about it, so that's why I went to the standalone version and said, tell me more information about this, because at that point, it brought together all of the other pieces, okay? It brought in Entra, it brought in Purview, it brought in some of the other pieces there to say, okay, his risk is high, and so we did this conditional access policy, which is all Entra, right? And it was this particular alert in Purview. Okay, does that make sense now? So I viewed it more along the lines of when I want to know more information about something, and that information might come from the other pieces of Microsoft 365, then I would go to the standalone version because that incorporates the other pieces. Okay?
Any other questions? Yes, the slides and the presentation is recorded. So the presentation takes a couple weeks for it to come out on YouTube, but you'll see that, but the slides are available as well. Yep. Yeah, feel free to reuse any one of these. Yep. Yeah, we're excited. Copilot, just a game changer. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.